Alohas.
நீ படத்துக்கு கேட்கல இந்த கதவு கிரீச் சத்தம் கட்டுறா இதை திறந்து விட்டுறா அவங்களோட ரூம் வெக்கையா இருந்தது இந்த காத்து விரட்டு இதை திறந்து விட்டா அந்த குசினி கதவு கிரீச் இந்த பிள்ளைகளோட வேணும் அந்த ஓயில் இது கிடந்தது போட்டு விட்டுறேன்
Chapter 4. Monday morning found Tom Sawyer miserable. Monday morning always found him so, because it began another week's slow suffering in school. He generally began that day with wishing he had no intervening holiday. It made the going into captivity again so much more odious. Tom lay thinking. Presently it occurred to him that he wished he was sick. They could stay home from school. He canvassed his system. No ailment was found, and he investigated again. Suddenly he discovered something. One of his upper teeth was loose. But when he went downstairs and complained that the tooth ached, his aunt called Mary. Mary, get me the silk thread and a chunk of fire out of the kitchen stove. Tom said, "Oh, Auntie, don't pull it out. It don't hurt anymore. Oh, please, Auntie, I don't want to go. I don't want to stay home from school." "Oh, you don't, don't you? So all this row was because you thought you'd get to stay home from school?" By this time, the dental instruments were ready. The old lady made one end of the thread fast to Tom's tooth with a loop and tied the other to the bedpost. Then she seized the chunk of fire and suddenly thrust it almost into the boy's face. The tooth hung dangling by the bedpost. But all trials bring their compensations. As Tom wended to school, he was the envy of every boy because he was the envy of every boy he met because the gap in his teeth enabled him to expectorate in a new and admirable way. He gathered quite a following of lads interested in the exhibition. Shortly, Tom came upon the juvenile pariah of the village, Huckleberry Finn, son of the town drunkard. Huckleberry was a cordially hated and dreaded by all the mothers of the town, because he was idle and lawless and vulgar and bad. Because all their children admired him so and delighted in his forbidden society. I lost where I was at. Tom envied Huckleberry his gaudy outcast condition and was under strict orders not to play with him. So he played with him every time he got the chance. Huckleberry was always dressed in the cast-off clothes of full-grown men. His hat was a vast ruin with a wide crescent lopped out of its brim. His coat, when he wore one, hung nearly to his heels, and but one suspender supported his trousers. Huckleberry came and went at his own free will. He slept on doorsteps in fine weather and in empty hogsheads in wet. He did not have to go to school or to church. He could go fishing or swimming when and where he chose. He was the first boy that went barefoot in the spring and the last to resume leather in the fall. He never had to wash. He could swear wonderfully. In a word, everything that goes to make life precious, that boy had. So thought every harassed, hampered, respectable boy in St. Petersburg. Tom hailed the romantic outcast. "Hello, Huckleberry. Hello yourself. And see how you like it. What's that you got? Dead cat? Let me see, Huck. He's pretty stiff. Where'd you get him?" "Bought him off in a boy." "What did you give?" "I gave a bladder that I got at the slaughterhouse." "Say, what is dead cats good for, Huck?" "Good for? Cure warts with?" No, is that so? I know something that's better. Spunk water. Spunk water? I wouldn't give a darn for spunk water. You wouldn't you? Did you ever try it? No, I ain't. But Bob Tanner did. Tell me how Bob Tanner done it, Huck. Why, he took and dipped his hand in a rotten stump where the rainwater was. In the daytime, certainly. Did he say anything? I don't reckon he did. I don't know. Aha! Talking about trying to cure warts with spunk water. Such a blameful way as that. Why, you got to go to the stump at night, and just as it's midnight, you back up against the stump and jam your hand in and say, barleycorn, Injun meal, shorts, spunk water, swallow these warts. And then walk away, quick, 11 steps, and then turn around 3 times and walk home without speaking to anyone. Because if you speak, the charm's busted. Well, that sounds like a good way. But that ain't the way Bob Tanner done. No, sir, you can bet he didn't, because he's the wartiest boy in this town, and he wouldn't have a wart on him if he knowed how to work spunk water. I've took thousands of warts off that way, Huck. I play with the frog so much that I've always... There's a bug on me. Yeah, it's cool. I've always got considerable many warts. But say, how do you cure them with dead cats? Well, you take your cat and go into the graveyard long about midnight, when somebody that was wicked has been buried. And when it's midnight, a devil will come, or maybe 2 or 3. But you can't see him. You can only hear something like the wind. Or you can't see him. Or maybe hear him talk. And when they're talking that fellow way, you heave your cat after him and say, devil follow corpse, cat follow devil, warts follow cat. I'm done with you. That'll fetch any wart. Sounds right. Did you ever try it, Hop? No, but old Mother Hopkins told me. Well, I reckon so then. Because they say she's a witch. Say, why, Tom, I know she's a witch. She witched Pap one day, and he rolled off in a shadow where he were lying drunk and broke his arm. Why, that's awful. How did he know she witched him? Lord, Pap can tell. Easy. Pap says they keep looking at you right steady. They're witching you. Especially if they mumble. When they mumble, they're saying the Lord's Prayer backwards. Say, Hucky, when you going to try the cat? Say, Hucky, when you going to try the cat? Tonight, I reckon they'll. Tonight, I reckon they'll come after old Hoss Williams tonight. But they buried him Saturday. Didn't they get him Saturday night? Why, how you talk? How could the charms work till midnight? And then it's Sunday. Devils don't slosh around much on Sunday, of a Sunday. I don't reckon. I never thought of that. That's so. Let me go with you? Of course, if you ain't afeard. Afeared? Afeared. Tain't likely. Will you meow? Yes, and you meow back. Last time you kept me meowing till old Hayes went to throw rocks at me and says, damn that cat. I couldn't meow that night because Auntie was watching me, but I'll meow this time. The boys separated. When Tom reached the little isolated frame schoolhouse, he strode in briskly, in a matter of one who had come with all honest speed. He hung his hat on a peg and flung himself into his seat with businesslike alacrity. The master, throned on high in his great armchair, was dozing, lulled by the drowsy hum of the study. The interruption roused him. Thomas Sawyer. Tom knew that his name was pronounced in full. It meant trouble. That when his name was pronounced in full, it meant trouble. Sir, come up here. Now, sir, why are you late again, as usual? Tom was about to take refuge in a lie when he saw 2 long tails of yellow hair hanging down a back that he recognized. And by that form, was the only vacant place on the girl's side of the schoolhouse. He instantly said, "I stopped to talk with Huckleberry Finn." The master stared. The buzz of study ceased. The pupils wondered if this foolhardy boy had lost his mind. The master said, You did what?" "Stopped to talk with Huckleberry Finn." "Thomas Sawyer, this is the most astounding confession I've ever listened to. No mere ferule will answer for this offense. Take off your jacket." The master's arm performed until it was tired. Then the order followed. "Now, sir, go and sit with the girls, and let this be a warning to you." The titter that rippled around the room appeared to abash the boy. But in reality, the result was caused rather than more by his worship or of his unknown idol. He sat down upon the end of the bench pile, and the girl hitched herself away from him. Nudges and winks and whispers traversed the room, but Tom sat so, with his arms upon the desk before him, and seemed to study his book. By and by, attention ceased from him. An accustomed school murmur rose once more. Presently, the boy began to steal furtive, began to steal furtive glances at the girl. She observed it, made a mouth at him, and gave him the back his of her head. When he cautioned, when she cautiously faced around again, a peach lay before her. She thrust it away. Tom gently put it back. She thrust it away again, but with less animosity. Tom patiently returned it. Then she let it remain. Tom scolded in the slate. "Please, take it. I got more." The girl glanced at the words, but it made no sign. Now the boy began to draw something, hiding his work with his left hand. For a time the girl refused to notice, but her human curiosity presently began to manifest itself. At last she gave in, and hesitantly whispered, "Let me see it." Tom uncovered a dismal caricature of a horse with two gable ends and a corkscrew of smoke issuing from the chimney. The girl gazed for a moment, then whispered, "It's nice. Make a man." The artist erected a man in the front yard that resembled a derrick. He could have stepped over the house, but the girl was not hypercritical. She was satisfied with the monster, and whispered, "It's ever so nice. I wish I could draw." "It's easy," whispered Tom. "I'll learn you." "Oh, will you? When?" "At noon. Do you go home to dinner?" "I'll stay if you will." "Good, that's a go. What's your name?" "Becky Thatcher. What's yours?" "Oh, I know. It's Thomas Sawyer. That's the name they lick me by. I'm Tom when I'm good. You call me Tom, will you?" "Yes." Now Tom began to scroll something on the slate, hiding the words from the girl. But she was not backward this time. She begged to see it. Tom said, "Oh, it ain't nothing." "Yes, it is." "No, it ain't." "You don't want me to see it." "You don't want to see it." "Yes, I do. Please let me." And she put her small hand upon his, and a little scuffle ensued. Tom pretended to resist by letting his hand slip by degrees till the words were revealed. "I love you." "Oh, you bad thing." And she hit his hand a smart rap, but reddened, looking pleased nevertheless. Just at this juncture, the boy felt a slow, fateful grip closing on his ear, and a steady lifting impulse. In that vice, he was borne across the house and deposited in his own seat, under a peppering fire of giggles. Then the master stood over him during a few awful moments, and finally moved away to his throne without saying a word. But although Tom's ear tingled, his heart was jubilant. jubilant. As the school quietened down, Tom made an honest effort to study, but the turmoil within him was too great. In turn, he took his place.
That will be interesting.
It's okay. It's a Vasipen. It's a Vasikalam.
மற்றது இன்னொன்று படிச்சாலையா it's about அந்த அண்ணாக்கு ப்ரைஸாக கிடைச்சது. We will know the life of some people, in what எங்களுக்கு we take for granted, எல்லாம் எங்களுக்கு we get all the facilities to live so comfortably. அப்போ வேறு இடத்துல எப்படி ஜனங்கள் எவ்வளவு கஷ்டத்துக்குள்ளாக ஜீவிக்கிறார்கள்னு அந்த புத்தகத்தை வாசிச்சா தெரியும். I will give you. You finish.
The is the canon. It's the canon. It's a vascular.
ആരോടാ കളിക്കണേ?
I'm live streaming. I'm reading out loud. Teriyazen, chumma.
ന്യൂസ്.
Ella, chumma. I'm streaming to 0 people. Ana chumma live stream pandaren, record pandaren. As the school quieted down, Tom made an honest effort to study, but the turmoil within him was too great. In turn, he took his place in the reading class and made a botch of it. Then in the geography class, and turned lakes into mountains, mountains into rivers, and rivers into continents, till chaos was come again. Then in the spelling class, and got turned down by a succession of mere baby words, till he brought up at the very foot. But at last, school broke up at noon. Tom flew to Becky Thatcher and whispered in her ear, "Put on your bonnet." Bonnet? And let on, you're going home. And when you get to the corner, give the rest of them the slip and come back. Go the other way and come it over, the same way. And so one went off with a group of scholars, the other with another. In a little while, the two met at the bottom of the lane, and when they reached the school, they had it all to themselves. Then they sat together with a slate before them, and Tom gave Becky the pencil and held his hand in his, guiding it, and so created another surprising house. When the interest in art began to wane, the two fell to talking. Tom was swimming in a bliss. He said, "Do you love rats?" "No, I hate them." "Well, I do, too. Live ones. I mean dead ones. Swing around your head with a string." "No, I don't care for rats much, anyway. What I like is chewing gum." "Oh, I should say so. I wish I had some now." "Do you?" "I've got some. I'll let you chew it a while, but you must give it back to me." That was agreeable, so they chewed it and turned about, and dangled their legs across the bench in excess contentment. "Was you ever at a circus?" said Tom. "Yes, my pa's going to take me again, if I'm good. I've been to the circus 3 or 4 times, lots of times. Church ain't shucks to a circus. I'm going to be a clown when I grow up." "Oh, you are? That'll be nice. They're so lovely, all spotted up." "Yes, they get slathers of money, most $1 a day. Ben Rogers says. Say, Becky, was you ever engaged?" "What's that?" "Why, engaged to be married." "No." "Would you like to?" "I reckon so. I don't know. What's it like?" "Like? Well, it ain't like anything. You just tell a boy you won't ever have anyone but him. Ever, ever, ever. And then you kiss him. And that's all. Anybody can do it. Kiss. What do you kiss for?" "Why, that, is to, well, they always do that." "Everybody?" "Well, yes. Everybody that's in love with each other. Do you know what I wrote on the slate?" Yes." "What was it?" "I shan't tell you." "Shall I tell you?" Yes. But some other time." "Oh, no, now. Please, Becky." "I'll whisper it, ever so easy." Becky hesitated. Tom took silence for consent, and passed his arm around her waist, and whispered the tale ever so softly, with his mouth close to his ear. And then he added, "Now you whisper it to me, just the same." She resisted, for a while, and then said, "Your turn. You turn your face away, so you can't see, and I will." He turned his face away. She bent timidly till her breath stirred his curls, and whispered, "I love you." And then she sprang away and ran around the desks and benches, with Tom after, and took refuge in the corner at last, with a little white apron to her face. Tom clasped her about her neck, pleaded, "Now, Becky, it's done. All over but the kiss. Don't be afraid of that. It ain't anything at all. Please, Becky." And he tugged at her apron. By and by, she let her hands drop. Her face, all glowing with the struggle, came up and submitted. Tom kissed the red lips and said, "Now it's all done, Becky. And after all this, you ain't ever to love anyone but me. You ain't ever to love anybody but me. Never, never, and forever. Will you?" "No, I'll never love anyone but you, Tom, and I'll never marry anyone but you. And you ain't ever marry anyone but me either." "Certainly, of course. That's part of it. And always coming to school, you're to walk with me when there ain't anybody looking, and you choose me and I choose you at parties. Because that's the way you do when you're engaged. It's nice. I've never heard of it before. I was ever so gay. Why, me and Amy Lawrence. The big eyes told Tom his blunder, and he stopped, confused. Oh, Tom, then I ain't the first you've ever been engaged to. The child began to cry. Tom said, Oh, don't cry, Becky. I don't care for it anymore. Yes, yes, you do, Tom. Oh, yes, you do, Tom. You know you do. Tom tried to put his arm around her neck, but she pushed him away and turned her face to the wall and went on crying. Tom tried again and was repulsed again. Then his pride was up, and he strode outside. He stood about restless and uneasy, hoping she would repent and come to find him, but she did not. He finally went back to her and stood a moment, not knowing exactly how to proceed. She was still in the corner sobbing. Then he said hesitantly, Becky, I don't care for anyone but you, Becky. Won't you say something? No reply, but sobs. Tom got his chiefiest jewel, a brass knob from an Andrian, and passed it around her so that she could see it and said, Please, Becky, won't you take it? She struck it to the floor. Then Tom marched out of the house and over the hills and far away, to return to school no more that day. Presently, Becky began to suspect. She ran to the door. He was not in sight. She flew around the play yard. He was not there. Then she called, Tom, come back, Tom. She listened intently, but there was no answer, so she sat down to upbraid herself. By this time, the scholars began to gather again, and she had to hide her grief and take up the cross of a long, dreary afternoon, with none among the strangers about her to exchange sorrows with. Bye bye.